morning and welcome to another edition of the Greenbridge Community Housing Podcast of Luton. We're joined today by Maty, Matthew with one T, never heard of that before, from Tuff to Talk.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Spot on, that's me.
Thank you. Introduce yourself, Matty. Tell us a little bit about you.
My name's Maty. I run an organisation called Tuff to Talk. It's a community interest company. I currently live in Flitwick, but I'm born and bred in Luton, lived in Luton for almost 40 years. Very proud Lutonian. I'm here to talk about this initiative, which I should say I'd rather not be talking about, but we can get onto that later.
Right. Okay. So if you tell us a little bit about why you started Tuff to Talk.
Yeah. So Tuff to Talk is kind of a play on words. It's a men's mental health initiative. And I was the chairman of a boxing club based in Hockwell Ring for a long time, been involved in amateur boxing for a long time. I'm now, I guess, retired from that, but my life's different now. So, but during that time, for those that have been involved in kind of group sports or group activity, you'll kind of be aware that you develop this relationship, this bond, this camaraderie with your kind of fellow players or, you know, people you meet along the way. And sadly, we lost... I lost three friends to death by suicide inside 3 years, and two of those were members from the gym. Sadly, one of the young men took his own life. I don't beat around the bush. Took his own life and hung himself from a tree, not 50 yards from the gym, in kind of, a very public place. And I just felt kind of a call to action, a call to arms. And I decided to set up a community interest company, which I should add, I don't receive any funding for. It's completely self-funded. But I formulated it to just to kind of advocate and to help to raise awareness for what I feel is a really vital topic that needs kind of the taboo breaking down. And Tuff to Talk itself uses kind of local, tangible, positive role models from within the combat industry and ultimately kind of Luton-centric.
Okay. Why do you think it's so difficult for men to talk?
Interestingly, I watched a TED talk on the way here. It was a young lady talking about her uncle who died by suicide, and it's a multifaceted issue. Obviously a lot of people that die by suicide or have difficulty talking, it can't be pinned down to kind of any one issue, but usually there is some kind of connection to like traditional gender role models that men may feel inadequate financially, not able to support their families. Obviously, we're all aware there's a growing financial crisis, but the statistics are sort of skyrocketing, and death by suicide is the number one killer in men under 50. And for me, as a man that was actually, now I'm over 50, I can say that, but I don't like to. But
None of us do.
Obviously, it's statistically you're talking around 6,000 deaths by suicide in the UK each year at the moment, with 75% of those being men. So, why is the $1 million question?
So, are you hoping that Tuff to Talk will help to break down those barriers of men talk? I mean, men do talk, but they talk to possibly their peer group or their best mate, or they don't talk like girls talk. They don't phone up for 3 hours and say, "Oh my God, this is what's happened to me," and we're all trying to fix everyone, aren't we? Or doing our best.
Yeah, we are. People. Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. That there is something kind of. There's always been this, like I said, the traditional gender role models, this taboo that men. So the tagline for Tuff to Talk is tough to talk, don't bottle it. As in, don't bottle it up, don't keep it inside. But also, don't bottle it. Don't be afraid to speak about your emotions. So, I don't think, I'm going to change it. I don't think anyone is going to change it overnight. That men aren't going to feel this kind of inner need to, to be a strong role model. I think that's something that's built into us. But men need to be kind of made to feel aware that it's okay to have those feelings of kind of, uncertainty, and that, ultimately my aim was to try and encourage people to, when they're feeling in crisis, to seek the support that is out there. There's some great people doing great work, and there's, a lot of therapies out there and support for people. But so, are we ever going to completely change that? Definitely not. Women have this inner ability to talk freely and comfortably about anything and everything. So yeah, it's not going to change, and it's certainly not going to change overnight. But the tide is turning. People are having these uncomfortable conversations about suicide.
I think the more it's talked about, not the easier it will be. What's the word I'm looking for? The more it's talked about, it's highlighted more.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, on the way here, I listened to this TED talk, and it was really interesting. That I've never heard the kind of analogy. And the girl said, obviously, so for those that don't know, as of next year, the government have said that they're going to introduce into schools, how entwined it will be, but they're going to introduce some level of education on suicide, and I'm pretty sure some good schools already do some of that in their work already, but it's going to be part of that schools must deliver that. But this girl said, going back a few years, I mean, I went to a Catholic school. I'm 50 years old now. Now, sex education is just a given. It's entwined in schools.
Yeah.
But when I was at school, it was very taboo,
Yeah.
especially at a Catholic school. But we know that if you don't talk to young people about sex education, just burying your head in the sand and assuming
That they're going to
young
know.
people, are going to know to practice contraception, to not have sex. We know that,
they're curious, and they will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a major issue. So, talking about it and educating people certainly helps to reduce, all manner of, sexually transmitted infections, and, stop people from sort of, having children, not necessarily unnecessarily. So I'm trying to find the right terminology, but
I know what you're trying to say.
at an age when they perhaps shouldn't. So this is the point, that until these conversations are sort of entwined in our society and an essential part of our curriculum at schools and our daily life, that people are comfortable talking about their emotions, I don't think we'll ever deal with issues like this. So
I think, going back to what you've just said, those uncomfortable conversations have to start at home.
yeah, they
have
do.
to.
Yeah,
From when kids are, you're not always going to know what to look for, because kids are quite clever at hiding, and men and women are quite clever at hiding feelings and emotions. It's about being in touch with those feelings and emotions. And young boys are brought up to, I'm sure it's still the same, you're strong, you're the leader, you've got to stay in control, you can't display this, it's a sign of weakness. All of that is old school.
Yeah, and like I said, there's certain kind of communities. Like I said, I went to a Catholic school. It would have been frowned upon to talk openly about your feelings. I'm pretty sure most people in their lifetime has used something along the lines of, man up, or grow some balls, or don't bottle it. Ironically, our tagline. So yeah, you're right. Obviously, we need to have those conversations. But one thing that was clear to me at the point of setting this up, and with probably the majority of cases for people suffering with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, and so on, is that people around them didn't have a clue. I've engaged with a lot of people who've been sadly at the sore end of deaths by suicide, and the one thing they'll say is, well, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know he was suffering. We didn't know he was in the bad place, you know, and that is the point that, you know, I just look back and I think certainly the three young men who were all under 40, under 45, all would have been, could have been saved, not necessarily by me, but
No.
by simple conversations to say, you know, are you okay? And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like when blokes ask each other, are they okay? They don't necessarily don't not mean it, but when you say it to someone, I don't know if most blokes would know what to do or how to do it if they went, no mate, I'm really in bits, and broke down in tears. And so, you know, but whereas women have, like I said, have this ability to really have those sort of uncomfortable conversations and understand how to navigate the situation if it's that way. So
I work in an office with, I'd say, more than 50% of the office is male, which I've never had. I've never worked in an office like that.
Yeah.
But I can tell instantly, maybe it's because of my training, my background, I don't know. I mean, I love people anyway, but I can instantly tell when there's something not right.
Yeah.
I'm the sort of person who'll say, what's the matter? And they'll go, oh, no, I'm good. What's happened? And I'll keep pushing that point till they say, okay, it's blah, blah, blah. So sometimes it is about not just accepting the first answer that comes out of a man's mouth, which is usually, oh, it's all good.
Yep.
I'm good. It's really reading body language, facial expressions. Is the character changed? Is he unusually snappy? Is he unusually quiet? You know, there are certain behaviours that people do display when they're not in a good place. And it's about recognising those behaviours, which is why it's important that schools, home, any educators start to educate society to look for these sometimes triggers.
The way I like to think of it is, you know, we talk about our kind of physical well-being. You know, mental well-being is exactly the same. You know, there's a scale of your kind of level of mental wellness or mental illness, however you know, choose to look at it. But you know, if someone walked into your office and they had, you know, an open wound or a rash all over their face, you know, someone would immediately say, what the hell? But someone walks in, you know, someone may even walk in clearly in a state of distress. A lot of people would shy away from like addressing it, would think, I don't want to deal with their sugar honey iced tea, so I'm trying to curb my language and have a potty mouth from this. But you know,
I can tell you're trying.
Most people would like at all costs avoid. You know, again, I believe it's like in our most people, it's to avoid confrontation, whether that's, you know, sort of physical content or like emotional confrontation. You think, I don't want to, that's a lot for me to deal with. So, you know, the old saying, a problem shared is a problem halved. I really live by that.
I certainly do.
But you know, like again, if you had a rash, if you developed, I mean, people in a heartbeat would be on the phone. We all know there's an issue getting a GP. That's a separate story. But
that's another podcast altogether.
Yeah, but you know, you wouldn't hesitate to get onto the GP if you know if you were peeing blood or you know something of that nature. Like you know, there's a big drive on men to have, you know, men of a certain age, so prostate checks, you know, blah blah blah. Like I understand, but death by suicide is a far bigger killer than anything else in men under 50, and you know, I feel like it needs the kind of support from on high. And the sad fact of the matter is, a lot of people just don't want to talk about it. You know, like I said, I know the tide is ever so slowly turning, but you know, there's so much work to be done in making people feel it's okay to go and access support that they need when it comes up that they need it, and not feeling like there's so many barriers to that actually happening. Like I said, the GP thing, that's a separate conversation.
That's a separate podcast altogether. When you say it comes from on high, you know, we sit there and we watch adverts about sugar.
Yeah.
We watch adverts about Diet Coke, and there are other brands out there as well. Why can't we then have an advert on the telly highlighting, this is a number, call, these are a list of associations if you feel that you need to,
Yeah.
you know, it does have to start with media. Social media now is big for everybody. TikTok, which I've just recently discovered, and I've spent way too much money on TikTok Shop. So if Colin's watching, there are deliveries coming from TikTok. I can't, you know, I couldn't help myself. So there are social media outlets where these issues can be highlighted quite easily, but people still are scared to talk. I think maybe, I mean, I was a Samaritan for 5 years, so I'm comfortable talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to be too skeptical. Now, obviously, I know your other work, that you work for a long time in the health and wellbeing sector. You still do. You're very active. You're clearly in great shape.
Oh,
you know,
thank you.
and I do and have do. And for me, that's like, I'm actually, it's not my 9 to 5, but one of my side hustles is I'm a personal trainer. But that is intrinsically entwined with my my psychological well-being. I use that as my crutch for well-being, my physical activity. But you know, the reality is fitness, health, nutrition, all that sells. You know, like I said, I try not to be too skeptical, but short of someone capitalizing on mental health medication, where's the money? You know, they always say follow the money. And like I say, I try not to be too skeptical and think the reason mental health doesn't have the kind of support and commitment from on high, let's, you know, the government, who you know, is that it's not financially beneficial. I mean, that's that's probably a bit tin hat for a lot of people, but
it's true. It's true.
Yeah. But you know, like sort of rewinding a little bit, part of the reason why I sort of started this initiative is I went through a particularly challenging time, and I'm not afraid to admit I had suicidal thoughts daily. And I went to see my GP, and I didn't feel like there was anyone I could kind of talk to or turn to about my feelings, even my closest of friends who I would speak to daily. I just didn't know how to open the lines of communication. I went to doctors. I said, you know, something's not right. I need some support. And they said, well, what do you need? And I said, I just feel like I need to talk to someone. So I kind of went into the pool. They referred me to a nurse who did a GAD score, which is like a score that assesses your kind of state of well-being and essentially your suicidal tendencies. And obviously, based on that, I didn't feel like, I wasn't having out of body experiences. I didn't feel kind of like frequently suicidal, but I'd had some pretty dark thoughts. And as a result of that, they prescribed me some antidepressants and referred me to an app, which took like about 4 or 5 months to come through. Didn't get to speak to a professional. The waiting list was so long and I didn't qualify for that. I never took the antidepressants because I'm quite holistic and I didn't want to, but I sort of kept them. I'm pretty sure I've actually still got the prescription somewhere. I kept it as my in case of emergency break glass, but I knew, like, if I needed to, it was there. But it was at that time I realised how heavily I rely on physical activity as my component of well-being. But I'm aware I'm quite fortunate in that I have the outlet and found the outlet, whereas some people at times like this, agoraphobia, they might become really introverted and not be able to go out in public, not be able to be physically active. So it's not an outlet that works for everyone. So I'm certainly not advocating against people taking medication for mental, because there's a time and a place for that, much like there is for diabetes and heart issues and whatnot. But so medication is definitely a route that some people absolutely need, but for me personally it wasn't. But I just found that whole access to therapies really difficult to navigate, and I just knew I was just like, I just want to speak to someone. Like,
what do you think could have been done at that time to help you? Because really, giving you a prescription and putting you on an app after you'd actually said to somebody, I need to talk, or I feel I need to talk, you didn't get to talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. I mean,
It's
you know,
crazy.
I'll be honest. I could have left there and gone and took myself off a bridge. So I mean, the answer is I don't honestly know. I mean, do you know? At that stage, do nurses and GPs need to intervene and go? You know, like you said, you would automatically know when something is not right with someone. I'm pretty sure
That
that,
they should
yeah.
know as
I mean,
well.
but like I said, we're all aware how much of a burden our NHS is under. I'm not sort of single-handedly holding that GP or nurse responsible, but and I'm aware at some stage they have to do their own sort of form of triaging where they go, yeah, he's in a bad way, but I haven't got time for this today because I've got 70 patients queued up. So,
But surely at that stage, you've said to them, or did you say to them you were having dark thoughts?
yeah.
So you told them, right? So at that stage, they have a duty of care, right, to intervene.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you said, oh, I feel sad, not quite sure what's going on. You said quite openly that you were having dark thoughts.
I mean, you know, I'm not a kind of huge example of it, but the nurse in question, actually, I'd gone through, I won't go into too much into detail, but I'd gone through quite a traumatic life experience at the time. And the nurse in question, she said, I think you're experiencing PTSD from this incident.
Right.
And then when I was sent to the GP said, she shouldn't have said that. She's not qualified to say that, which I found, you know, quite shocking.
Yes.
But yeah. So what the solution is, that's. But you know, like you said, ultimately it's about education. I think everyone. In my day job, I always use the term of collective responsibility, and I feel like that's what I'm doing since I set up this CIC. I want to do more. You know, I always want to do what I can, and I beat myself up that I'm not doing enough, and it hasn't got to where I would like it to be. But you know, I feel like all of us as human beings, that would sound like too much of a hippie, but all of us human beings have a societal collective responsibility in looking out for one another. And you know, I think now is the right time to it. But I think all of that in today's site has gone to shit. People just don't really care enough about other people's business because they're busy doing their own thing. Like I said, we're looping back to what you said. It's like when someone come in the office, a lot of people would steer away and go, I'm not touching that, it's a bit heavy for me. So, you know, I feel like everyone has collective responsibility in our fellow man,
man or woman.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like obviously I've often taken a bit of a pounding for that, but this is started off the back of the what I see as the whole in support for men. Women have got women to support them, but yeah.
And we're strong enough to actually to support ourselves, some of us would say. But getting back to how can we start, Maty, to engage and help each other? How can we start?
It's about education. You know, obviously, I'm pretty sure we would all admit that, you know, society is, you know, it's a natural, you know, it's a natural thing, but it's evolved. You know, young people have a really tough deal, and you know, I should say that you know, mental health statistics in young people is just crazy. Yeah, it's
but isn't
wild.
it because of social media?
Yeah, it's because of social media, but it's also because of understanding as well, right?
Never leaves the hand.
No,
never leaves the hand, except for when your mum's ringing you and suddenly you don't answer the phone. And I'm thinking, they got this thing in their hand 24/7, but I'm calling you, don't answer.
Well, I mean, one of the things that people report to is you know, generational and kind of generational trauma, or trauma that you brought through from a young age, or historical trauma that, you know, that's the real kind of Russell Brand is famously quoting about, you know, people talking about drugs. He was publicly open about his heroin addiction, but he says, you know, cannabis isn't a gateway drug, cocaine isn't the gateway drug. He said generational trauma is the real gateway drug, and you know, a lot of young people, yes, obviously this stuff is driven into them, but you know, people carry stuff through from a young age, and we radiate that onto our children. So I do believe social media has got a lot to kind of lot to blame, but also we wouldn't be connected if it weren't for social media. So you know, there are pockets of great stuff happening.
I'm not sure about that. You know, we grew up in a generation where there was no social media. I had a great childhood, thankfully, great upbringing, great social. You know, if I needed to use the phone, I had to go to the red phone box down the road and transfer the charges, and my mum used to go mad. We had a phone in the house with a lock on, which I'm sure everyone else did,
And a TV.
And friends and playing out. So I live on a green, and I see it's a beautiful green, lovely trees, lovely great area for kids to play football. My boys used to go, well, Carl hates football, but Josh was constantly out there. Summer holidays, you could hear a pin drop outside. That is not normal, I don't think, when loads of children live in that area.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, yeah.
I don't think it's normal if they don't get any fresh air, they're sat in, they're on a console. I actually heard that you can make money from these games playing each other around the world. What the actual hell?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think that's the point, is that we just don't understand. It's just you know, it's just evolved super quickly, and the world has become something that a lot of people just don't understand anymore. It's but yeah, there's so much work to be done in schools, and I worked for a long time in education, and you know, schools do try, but much like our authorities, they're under resourced, they're overworked, and they're fighting uphill, and sadly a lot of parents are also resistant to much like I said, I talked about sex education. I guarantee if and when we start talking in schools about suicide, a lot of parents will probably be resistant to that. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done with our young people to stem the flow of mental health. And there is an element of it that I look at and think, is it that we've got more awareness of mental health and these kind of conditions? But yeah, what the solution is there, I don't know, but it certainly needs more funding and more collective responsibility, because talking to someone doesn't cost anything.
Well, it does.
Well,
it depends who you're talking to. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think that having access to those therapies is the first. That's becoming more accessible. We had Total Wellbeing on the podcast week before last. We've got them coming in to do a big podcast on their whole holistic therapy. They are not just because they're my friends, but they are quick to respond, quick to act, quick to help. But linking, like you said, Maty, the physical fitness, nutrition.
I'm probably slightly biased because I worked for Total Wellbeing for 2 years, so I'm very pro Total Wellbeing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is an intrinsic link between the old saying, healthy body, healthy mind.
100%.
It is very true. But I, again, without sounding like too much of a hippie and too much of a tin hat, our young people are really up against it nutritionally, which impacts attention deficit, and
illnesses, diabetes,
and
heart failure. I see them walking to school with cans of Coke, packets of crisps. I'm thinking, surely, and a Mars bar, this can't be your breakfast, but it must be. So they're all hyped up before they even get in anyway. So I feel sorry for the teachers. Then at lunchtime, they go across to chicken and chips and fish and chips. And I was like, don't none of you stay for school dinner? I used to love school dinners.
Yeah, but
But yeah, so it's all things that, for me, if I'm feeling, a little bit not quite myself, I'll go to the gym.
Yep.
Put my headphones on, which means don't talk to me, by the way. All of you in the gym that was talking to me this morning at 7 o'clock, when I've got my headphones on, I don't want to talk. That's my hour of peace. So when you come, hello, I don't mind saying hello, but then I don't want to hear about the whole of your day because I need to, crack on. But so for me, I go to the gym and then I feel great. After an hour, I'm in a totally different headspace.
I mean, I'm a huge advocate for physical activity for enhanced well-being. Obviously I understand everyone has a kind of a different route. Some people like to look kind of in a certain way aesthetically, that's their focus. But for me, my personal training arm is all about kind of enhanced well-being and finding your outlet. A lot of people, I always say to people will say, oh, I hate running on a treadmill. I say, don't do it then.
Yeah, hate it.
There's plenty of modalities of physical activity where you can do something you enjoy. Some people doing step aerobics classes, their thing. Others, it's their worst nightmare. Fishing, So my point is, always don't be afraid to try another thing because there will be something out there for everyone where you go, that's your light bulb moment. You find a reformer Pilates class and you go, wow, this is giving me my outlet. I mean, I'm a big advocate. I use cold water therapy. I ice bath every morning. Most people think I'm crazy.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's just, just thinking about it. How Josh manages to sit in a bath with ice, I can't get my head around it. I know, for footballers and people that train heavily, it's the quickest way to recover.
It is
one of the quickest ways to recover. I get it. I just can't do it.
The reason humans are so kind of entwined with physical activity is because it starts a chemical reaction in our body and releases dopamine and endorphins, which is endorphins are what's called the runner's high. It's our body's happy drug, and it's there to make us feel good. So when I'm a separated parent, and twice a year I like to get up to Snowdon and climb Mount Snowdon, and 3 times I've managed to drag my daughter up there. I won't.
Ishmael might go with you, but no.
Maybe we can do a fundraiser. But the point is, I've dragged my daughter up there a few times, and pretty much, yeah. She's 16.
So she's 16 actually. She's got her own mind, yeah.
But the point is, you can't argue with that. You get out, you ride a bike, you run, you hike. You will physically start this chemical reaction in your body, and you will feel good. So, Total Wellbeing used to do wellbeing walks, and I used to work on their weight management team, and you see the impact that people that kind of just discover the outdoors or physical activity that they haven't kind of previously engaged with, it's almost like a light bulb moment. So that is my, I'm not trying to sell my wares, I'm not advertising my personal training arm, but if I would say something to anyone today would be to try and be more physically active.
Yeah,
if you can.
And that can be just my eldest son Carl just loves walking. Great. Puts his headphones on, he goes for hours. Fine. Not every gyms aren't for everybody. Another one is swimming. Love it. You could just be yourself. Colin's going swimming today. And Josh is just a keep fit freak, obviously because of the football and everything else. I think, do you ever rest? Nah, because he needs that constant high all the time. I get it.
Yeah.
But your body does need that time to rest, recover, and repair. So if you are watching, I hope this is your rest day after the football yesterday. But yeah, not, and just like you say, just walking, either on your own or with a friend, or if you've got a dog, just walking can still, lockdown, that's all we could do.
Yeah.
Walk for miles. I was like, I didn't even know that was there. That's nice. And that's pretty. We might walk for miles.
I mean, as some of us, it's funny you say that actually. As some of us, obviously, I think that um, some people look back at the pandemic and the lockdown and think, oh, it's fantastic. I had all this freedom, I could do this, I didn't have to work, so on. Obviously, that was a time where, statistically, actually, ironically, the statistics were a little bit skewed because of um, the way deaths were reported during
COVID,
that
yeah,
time.
yeah.
But everyone is very well aware. I don't think anyone that works in mental health will be aware, would deny the impact that had on both
Massive.
young people
Mhm.
and obviously the death by suicide rates were super high
Hi.
then. But yeah, so obviously Tough to Talk is all about just for me at present it's about advocacy and encouraging people to seek therapy from professionals. I don't advocate myself to be a mental health practitioner. Obviously, I'm happy to have conversations with people. Lots of people have engaged with me directly over social media, and I try and signpost them to total well-being, to mind, to calm, to men
You
in
do
their sheds, and
is it a podcast or a talk every day?
yeah,
You
yeah,
check
well,
in, don't
yeah,
you? And
yeah.
hi,
I
how
I
is
I
everyone? I
try
love
and do
it.
my kind of frequent ones. Obviously, because this is just sort of me. Um, Life tends to get in the way, and then I beat myself up that I haven't been sort of active enough, and I've lost a bit of momentum. But yeah, I just try and sort of, and for me that is actually quite difficult to do. But I try and advocate just sort of talking openly about your emotions and your feelings, and that kind of give experiences and share examples of people that have kind of, um, given a real positive message. Um, but I've been really lucky to engage with some kind of some people locally that have been happy to just give a short soundbite and just say it's tough to talk, but it's good to talk. Don't bottle it. Luton has got to, I mean, your son particularly, but Luton has had developed some. We've done pretty well in combat sports over the years. We've we've produced some English, British, European, and world champions from within our communities, and those people are happy to go on tape and support the town, support the initiative. I've had some great people: Kay Prosper, Linus Udofia, Billy Schwer, for those that remember him, Jordan Thomas, the world karate champion. Yeah, some really great local people. And I think those people are more important. Like when I started the initiative, I did some work. I delivered a boxing class in a Barnfield College at one of their sort of open days, and I was talking to the lady about what I was starting. And she said to me, she said, "Oh, Tyson Fury does some great men's mental health, which he is a fantastic advocate for men's mental health." But I looked out the window outside Barnfield College, and there was these three young, I'll call them hoodies, three young hoodies stood outside, and I said, "They don't know who he is. They don't know, like Frank Bruno Foundation, fantastic, but they don't know who these." But I said, "But they know who Faisal Malik is from Luton. They know who." Linus Udofia is. They know these tangible people from within their community are, and they're the kind of people that I want to target, people that have got a local reach, that young people from within our community and people aspire to them. For me, sharing stuff from Tyson Fury and you know and big, big kind of big draw celebrities doesn't really mean anything to these people because that's kind of almost like out of reach. They can't look at these people and go, he's from where I'm from. I can do that. So that for me is the main thing, that it stays kind of localized where people can sort of align with the kind of the people supporting it. That's the
Well, maybe you could come
that's it.
back on.
I would love to. Yeah,
Bring some of these
yeah, I'd love
celebrities
to. Yeah,
back on, and we can talk. It's really important that the purpose of the podcast is to engage, empower, and encourage
I like that.
people
Yeah,
in the town. Such a such a lovely place to live. Lived here most of my life. I'm very passionate about the place. I get very upset when people say, "Oh, Luton," get really upset because there are so many good things and good people in the town.
Do you know, I do a lot of events in other towns, and Luton does get a really bad rap. Um, you know, when you go around to other towns, you know, Luton actually has a lot to sing about. You know, and my wife has been involved in. Well, she's one of the directors at Love Luton, so they've organised a lot of great initiatives across the town. One of those I should plug is the Love Luton Run Fest, 5K, 10K, half marathon on the 12th of October. But there's a lot of great people in Luton doing great things, and people give me a bad rap because I don't live in Luton anymore. So it's easy for you to love Luton, you don't live here. But you know,
You
I
have.
come to Luton all the time. I work in Luton all the time. I sing it up as much as I can, and you know, I'm happy to get my hands dirty and sort of do what needs to be done. But so yeah, you're right. It's a great town. It's got great people, and you know, sadly, it gets a bad rap. But there's a lot to be proud of. There's a lot of people to be proud of, and yeah, and Luton always does seem to really back their own.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, certainly you see it in sports. You know, if you go to the York Hall to watch boxing, and any of the kind of local Luton boxers are fighting, they bring a pretty good
York Hall.
crowd. Yeah, it's a famous boxing venue in Bethnal Green in London.
Oh, I was going to
It's like
say.
the home.
I thought you
the
said it
home
meant
of
it was in
boxing.
Luton. I'm thinking.
No,
I've lived here 55.
But they
never
always
heard of it.
take, like, historically, you know, that's where
Right,
that's where
everyone
professional boxing
Right,
is,
okay.
is the epicenter of, and yeah.
Might have to go.
Go.
Don't really like
I'm
boxing
pretty
that
sure
much,
there's a Luton boxer called Frankie Story who's fighting there soon. So yeah, it's always a great
Always
night
a
out.
good night
Yeah,
out. Okay,
yeah.
I do like a good night out.
Yeah, yeah.
So, if anyone's watching, I'll say if anyone's watching, those people that are watching, I should say, Maty, and they want to get in touch with Tuff Talk, where can they go?
So I'm on pretty much every social media platform. It's Tuff to Talk. So it's TUFF because I'm down with the kids, you see. So it's Tuff to with a number talk. Tuff to Talk on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Yeah, on pretty much every social platform. It's Tuff with a number 2 Talk. TUFF. If you go on there, you'll find my phone number on there, my email address on there. Like I said, I'm not a mental health professional, but I'm more than happy to have conversations, have uncomfortable conversations, and try and signpost people into the support that they need and deserve.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks ever so much for coming on.
My
It's been
pleasure.
great to talk to you. We will be inviting you back. We invite back everyone that's come on at some stage to kind of see the progress. If anybody would like to fund Tuff to Talk, get in touch with Maty as well. Because it is about, I know it is your own time, and time's precious, especially when you've got a family. But we're always making, I don't know where we get this extra time from. People go, when do you sleep? I said, I actually don't. But we're always trying to help people, and that takes time, but it also it costs money too.
Yeah.
So if anybody would like to get in touch with Maty, you know, you can contact him across all social platforms. But thanks for coming in.
It's been my pleasure.
And we'll see you again.
Thank you very much for having me.